Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth edition of Cargo Connections Conclave 2023, presented by Dakshin Bharat Gateway Terminal, organized by India Sea Trade and FIO. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I have your attention. All right, with your permission, I'm beginning session 2 of Cargo Connections Conclave 2023 here at Madurai. Let's begin the second session on connecting to gateway ports, optimizing time and cost. Ladies and gentlemen, this panel of carriers, logistics service providers, ports and terminal leaders will explore the challenges facing southern ports and the measures they are taking to make South India the gateway of choice for shipping lines and beneficial cargo owners in the growing container trades. Road, rail and port connectivity is key for seamless movement of cargo, and southern India have an advantage in this area. But there are still some challenges. How do we tackle them? Let's take a look through the panel discussion that's awaiting us. I can still see some of them not yet settled, but I hope I can continue. Yes. To debate on this topic, I'd like to invite our esteemed dignitaries on stage. First, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome Ms. G. Gayatri, IRTS GGM, Commercial and Operations South Container Corporation of India. Welcome, ma'am, to this panel. Thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, is it that I didn't hear you, or was the applause not loud enough? Can we have a loud round of applause for her, please? Let's move on to our second panelist, Mr. R. Prabhakar, Traffic Manager, VO Chidambaram Port Authority. Mr. R. Prabhakar on stage, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Parthasarathi Gopalan, Managing Director, PIL India Private Limited. Welcome, sir, to the dais. Thank you for joining us. Please be seated. Moving on to our next guest in the panel, Mr. Senthil Kumar Subramaniam, CEO, Dakshin Bharat Container Terminal. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Moving on to the next panelist for the second session, Dr. R. Rajesh Kumar, Director, GLO, Shipping and Logistics Private Limited. Let's welcome Dr. R. Rajesh Kumar with a loud round of applause. Thank you for joining us, sir. Mr. C.M. Muralidharan, India Area Director, Unifeeder Group. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him with a loud round of applause. Welcome, sir. Mr. David Raja J, Senior Vice President, St. John Freight Systems, a global corp logistics company. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Raja J on stage. Thank you, sir. And welcome to the panel. And I'd like to invite Mr. Jayant Thomas, Secretary, Tuticorin Ship Agents Association and General Manager, Chakyat Agencies Private Limited. Welcome, sir. That's Mr. Jayant Thomas joining us on the panel. And now I'd like to invite the moderator of today's session. We have Mr. J. Celestin Villavarayar, President, Tuticorin Container Freight Station Association and Director, Wilson's Shipping. May I welcome him to moderate the session and set the tone of the discussions. Welcome, sir. So our panel is full, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm handing over the stage to none other than Mr. Celestin Villavarayar. And I'd like to remind you that the mics are placed in the hall for your questions and answers. And I hope it's going to be an insightful discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So we are gathered again for our second session, Service Providers Panel, Connecting to Gateway Ports, Optimizing Time and Cost. Friends, recently we as a part of the Association for Tuticorin Upward Development, we were in Delhi and we had the opportunity to go to Vanija Bhavan, where Gati Shakti office is located, where the Special Secretary Logistics is being there taking care of how to tune the logistics to the global standards in terms of performance and cost. So while we were being made to wait to meet the Additional Secretary, I could like to quote a line which I read in the government office, which was eye-catching. With that lines, I could like to set the stage for this meaningful, practical, down-to-earth discussion. It was written in a placard or in a board. The distinction between the commodity and services is blurring. Various types of services are decoupled from the production process and incorporated as a vital component into product structure. Industrial goods, in addition to being manufactured, are being designed, marketed, advertised, leased, and serviced. Manufacturers' value added today includes services in a considerable and growing proportion. I believe there is a lesson for every service provider, a point to take in these words which I came across in Vanija Bhavan. So, as a service provider, today we are a part of the entire supply chain, and more than that, we have a very vital role to play in placing the product of our customers, be it importers or exporters, not competitive, amidst ports within our country, but globally. To reach to that level, as a service provider, in the first session we saw discussions going on how knowledge is very essential. I believe as a service provider, knowledge will empower every shipping person, be it a custom broker, a ship agent, a CFS operator, even a runner boy in customs. So knowledge is very important, and knowing the nuisance of doing our job is very important, because even the government has understood that the lines between the product and service is blurring, and ultimately the value chain is product coupled with services, wherein we have a very key role to play. And we have with us panelists from across cross-section of the logistics sector, and I could like to throw open this session or carry it forward by allowing the panelists with each of them about 2 to 3 minutes to elaborate, to discuss, keeping in mind the theme, optimizing time and cost. So with that, I could like to first pass on the mics to Madam G. Gayatri, IRTS Group General Manager, Commercial and Operations South Container Corporation of India. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you, sir. At the offset, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me here today. Actually, as we all know, like our ports, our gateway ports are our lifeline, basically, for resources, for ideas, and for goods. And so it's imperative that we have to operate these sustainably, efficiently, and smoothly. Now, one of the issues which we have here is to reduce cost and to optimize time. Now, how do we do it? Like when we do it, there are various ways of looking at it, like, streamlining procedures, processes, address congestion issues. But here, right now, in this forum, we are talking about connectivity issues. So connectivity issues, when we talk about it, here, essentially, I'll talk about rail and road connectivity. So, because like we've been given 3 minutes, so I'll optimize my time out here. So what I would start off with, like I'll just point out to what are the major constraints of road and rail and what we Concor, I'm from Container Corporation, what we are doing as an enabler to reduce this time, and finally what we can do for the Madurai customers. So when we come to road, now road is, of course, India has a vast network of roads, like we have around 63.7 lakh kilometers of connectivity throughout India. We have our national highways and we have our state highways, and these are perhaps one of the more, and Tuticorin port especially is very well connected by roadways, and southern India as such has a very good road connectivity. And when we talk about cargo, which road provides you the flexibility and easy accessibility to your last, and also your last mile connectivity to your endpoints. And that is an advantage which road gets. But then road again has its own disadvantage. If you have bulk cargo, like you have too many containers, road may not be very feasible. Then again you have congestion. And then you have a lot of restrictions on the road, the timings on the road, and you can't reach on time because of that. And then again, in India, we are very skewed towards smaller trucks there rather than bigger trucks. And so that, I think, if many of you might have read the Ernst & Young report, which pointed out that a smaller truck is around 2.5 times more expensive in terms of logistics cost. So these are issues like, which actually affect road. And of course, the idea of when a truck going one way loaded and one way empty, of course that affects. And then when we come to railways is, as we all know, bulk carrier. And so if you want to send, and for bulk and for containerized and like large number of containers, that's the best mode of transport you can actually take. And it's also very reliable. And I can say that, I can vouch for that, because even now between our Harbour Whitefield sector, to and fro, we still Concor runs around 55 rakes a month. And in the Sanat Nagar JNPT, we are running around 100 rakes to and fro. So it's like, that is because railways is still a very reliable mode of transport. And railways, the best part is the connectivity. And then apart from that, railways have also fine-tuned, and they made their processes very simple now. And we have goods sheds now in many parts of India. We have around, I think, 4,000 goods shed in Southern Railway itself. We have around 111 goods shed. So even if you want to take containerized cargo and you want to reach it to a destination, even if that is not an ICD or a CFS, we can always use the container rail terminal, CRT facility, which the rail gives. But again, railways has its own problem. You don't get the last mile connectivity. Then again, railways' main problem is when you have, which I think a lot of customers here feel is, railways insist on bulk cargo, bulk loading. That is an entire rake loading. I wouldn't say bulk, sorry, an entire rake loading. Anything shorter than that, you will be still charged for it. So that becomes a problem. Then empty haulage charges, or even if you're just running empty containers, you're still paying the railways. All these make railways a little, maybe a little problematic for a lot of customers, and maybe because it is not that way, it doesn't become cost efficient when it is for especially shorter routes. In the previous section, I think the moderator had also pointed out, railways for longer routes, nothing beats a railway. Shorter routes, maybe the road is better. And this is where, as my organization, as Container Corporation, how we act as an enabler. Now, Container Corporation, we have around 352 rakes, and we have around 35,000 wagons. And we have 61 ICD CFS all over India. And we mainly use rail facility, but that does not stop us in the sense if there is, we also provide complete logistic solution, because we are also oriented towards reducing the logistics costs. So in case you want the last mile or the first mile connectivity, we merge it through the road. And apart from that, we give you a one-stop solution for all your problems. We have separate verticals for first mile, last mile, business solutions, and whatever the customer wants, we ensure that we can provide him, like he doesn't need to go anywhere else. Apart from that, especially, like areas maybe you do not have sufficient traffic towards a particular destination, we have this hub and spoke model also. So what the hub and spoke model does is, we take shorter leads, so, and you have a specific catchment area. We take through road or through rail, and we take it to a larger ICD. From there, maybe we have regular trains towards that direction, and we connect it from there. For example, I would just say, like in Khattuwas, we have a terminal. Give you an example of Northern Railway out here, northern part of India. In Khattuwas, we have a terminal which has, it takes from Tuklakabad, Dadri, all the containers come to Khattuwas, and they get be assimilated there, and we run a double stack container rake towards Mundra. This saves on time, and it saves on the cost also. And besides that, now with this dedicated freight corridors and all in the northern part, this has really made it faster. So this is another facility, Concord, as an organization, we are giving it out to people. Now, when because I think the time is limited, I'll just go on to what we can do it for the Madurai, what we can do for Madurai. In Madurai, in Tuticorin, we have a CFS. We do not have an ICD, but we have a CRT at Milavitan. CRT is a common user facility run by railways. So anyone who has any kind of traffic, we can load it from CRT. And of course, if you are coming through the port, then you have a railway line inside the port also. And for the Madurai, yes, in the previous session, I thought I would address it in this session. There was this issue about Kodal Nagar Good Shed. Now, our main problem, I'll tell you about Kodal Nagar Good Shed. This started, it functioned for 15, 20 years. It closed down only in 2020 when we handed it back to railways. The main problem there was we were not getting support from the, maybe we did not get the kind of, I wouldn't say support, we didn't get the kind of traffic we expected. And I'm sure all of you understand, to be sustainable for us also, we need to make some kind of profit so that we can continue with our systems. So that was the reason we stopped it. But even now, we can operate it from Kodal Nagar. That option has not stopped. It can be a CRT, we can still do. Like, since we were told that there are customers who are interested, we would request, if there is, like, again, as I had told you, railways expects a rake load. Anything shorter than rake will not be cost effective. So if there is a freight aggregator who comes forth and he aggregates, maybe we can think about a weekly service. We can do a regular service, and again, it should be a return cargo also. So, I mean, if it's a domestic container, we don't have a problem because domestic containers can be used anywhere else. But if it is an exempt container, that has to be brought back. So we'll need return cargo. A return cargo, look, the return cargo, as you'll all understand, all the logistics player who is here, a return cargo, is what it has a fine line between breaking even and going at a loss. So a return cargo is very essential. But for domestic, we can consider. So if any freight forwarder who's here comes forth with any solution, we are willing to try it. And I would also like to inform during this forum, like if people are interested, Container Corporation has now procured some LNG trucks. And we have started operating it in the Nagpur sector. So LNG, as you all know, is like, again, because we have always, we are keen on using greener methods of transportation, which is very necessary. LNG is like sustainable, it's green, and it'll be cost effective. If we see like, some kind of interest for shorter distance, we can also consider running LNG trucks on this sector, maybe connecting Tuticorin port to Madurai. And that is up to the trade. If they come forth with any solution, we are willing to do it. And apart from that, this is another idea we had started last year, was about bulk containerization of bulk cargo. So basically we tried out with cement, and we have tried it out with food grains. Now in Vizag port, alumina has come to us. So they are wanting us to containerize alumina, which is coming as bulk cargo. So this is something, again, we are working out on it. So if anyone has any solution, we are open to it. As Concord, I mean, like, you can come to us personally or anytime, any solution, we'll work on it. It's something we are also open to attract more business partners in this part. And like, as pointed out, yes, our peninsular India, the connectivity is, I mean, the connectivity is good, so road transport becomes more nominal, but we are willing to explore rail transport here if it is feasible. So with that, I would like to just conclude my talk here. Thank you so much, and thank you all of you.
Thank you, madam, for explaining in brief about what is Concord's infrastructure and what is the positive, what is the limitations you have, which is well taken. See, recently we had a meeting in Chennai where I was able to hear Niti Aayog Sherpa, Mr. Amitabh Khan. See, he was commenting that for India to be a $5 trillion economy, the contribution of Tamil Nadu is inevitable. Because Tamil Nadu as such is aiming for $1 trillion, and that $5 trillion, that 10% of it has to come from Tamil Nadu. So he was bullish that Tamil Nadu will be a great contributor. So why I am quoting these things is, maybe from Concord's side, we keep hearing about the dedicated freight corridors, a lot of trains running. Yeah, we do understand that there is a cargo from the hinterland or the landlocked states going on to Mundra, JNPT, correct. But from Concord's side, do you have any vision in line with the projected traffics which the ministry has forecasted, which the ports are forecasting, which the trade bodies are also looking at? Do you have a specific vision for South? Why I am asking this is, when the state logistics policy was released, one of the discussion was to have a dedicated rail freight corridor between Tuticorin and Coimbatore. So what lead is Concord going to take for the South? Can you please explain on that a bit more?
Yes, like I would just like to say, when we talk about South, I'm talking about because Southern Railway is with Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. We have 7 terminals out here, and apart from that, in Karnataka, we have 1 terminal, plus we are opening another terminal at Mysore shortly by next month. Khadakola, we are also opening. And again, in Andhra and Telangana together, we have around another 7 terminals. So we are exploring a lot of new areas. We are also trying now for the connectivity between Harbour and Jolarpet. We are exploring all the possibilities so that the Hosur, Hosur trade can also be connected to us. That is one thing we are also thinking about. And apart from that, like of course, as I mentioned about Khadakola, Mysore will be well connected. And the railway line has already come, and it should be commissioned from September. And and for this part of India, like any new solutions, we are willing to explore. That's all we can say right now. Our connectivity is wonderful, and any kind of business solutions you come forth with it, we are willing to take it forward and work on it.
Okay, madam, I'll have just one more question to you. Having worked with Concord, you have a southern region office dedicated at Chennai,
Yes,
which is catering to the southern side. I think the logistics service providers will agree with me that the exposure of Concord as giving solutions in terms of container connectivity to the trade in Coimbatore, Karur, or even to the CHAs and the trade at Tuticorin is very minimal. So there is a perceived disconnect between the trade and Concord. So how are you going to address that as a southern region? I am specific to South Tamil Nadu now.
Your point is well taken, sir. Fine. I mean, like, since you have a grievance regarding this, I I'm sure like we'll work out something on it because we'll take it positively. It's a learning experience for us because this kind of forum also allows us to know how trade is perceiving us. And I'll make it sure that we'll, since we are in Chennai, we have our terminal manager sitting at Millivitan. We do get a feedback from him, but yes, I understand your grievance. And the point is well taken, and we will address it, definitely. And if you have any solutions, suggestions, sir, maybe later on you can tell me.
Yes.
We'll take it up.
Yeah. See, that is the point which we want to present before you so that constructively we are able to do something, and we believe Concor can be a very good service provider, supporter for the entire trade.
I totally agree with you, sir. And any kind of development for the southern state has to be between, a kind of a close coordination between the logistics provider, the trade. So we need support from all of you. And your suggestion and your grievance is also taken, sir. And I'm sure since you have a grievance, maybe later on you can also tell me what we can do to improve and how much we can implement it.
Thank you. Thank you, madam, for your kind response, point taken. So we'll move on to our next speaker. I would like to keep our traffic manager reserved as for the final take with all the inputs from Tuticorin. So I would like to go on to Mr. Parthasarathi Gopalan, Managing Director of PIL India Private Limited. Welcome, sir. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I think I need to start with a confession. Tuticorin is very close to me personally, and it's all for a reason. First is Tuticorin, brings to the table, a plethora of cargo, a mix of light 40s, and also you have your, minerals, the cashews import, then the garnet sand, of course, it's not there anymore. And Tuticorin has already had a lot of firsts. For example, if you speak to Nikes or the Adidases, why do they want to come to Tuticorin? They want to come to you because you are able to give them inspection in the CFS, which is not possible in any other CFS in the country. So this is something which has been worked out by the Port Trust, the customs, and it's a super value as far as the customer is concerned. Second one, today there is a huge uproar in Nhava Sheva because one line wants to one line is not ONE, one line wants to transship cargo over Kattupalli. What Tuticorin has been doing over Mundra for ages now. In Tuticorin, the EGM is filed in Tuticorin, whereas in Nhava Sheva, they ask them to file it in Kattupalli, which is what is the transshipment process apparently. Again, nobody needed to tell the customs or the Port Trust that this is a requirement of the trade, and it was wonderfully done. So for these reasons, and of course, the customers that I've seen in Tuticorin, not exactly the ones who run behind the last dollar. So that's why my attraction and my special affection towards Tuticorin. Now coming to how can we reduce cost and also how we can better manage the time. Now as far as Tuticorin is concerned, I'm sure that there are many who have spoken on the rail options. To me, given my experiences, I don't think a rail option, I'm sorry, I call a spade a spade. I don't think a rail option will work for Tuticorin, Madurai, etc. If I go back, we tried Cochin, to do Irigur and back. Concor supported us excellently well. We did about a couple of trains, then we stopped. We also tried to do Coimbatore to Nhava Sheva. Practically we were begging customers for cargo. Nothing came forward. That being the case, as far as the shipping line is concerned, or for that matter, a service provider like Concor is concerned, we are always interested in saying, where is the cargo? If the cargo is there, we are more than interested. So it is a two-way street. And unfortunately, in these experiences, I have not seen, both generate, any kind of, should I say, economies of scale for us to sustain those operations. Having said that, what is it that the other things that we can do? For example, when we are talking about cost, we are talking about transshipment over Colombo. Honestly, in my various roles, be it in sales or be it as a trade manager or be it as a regional manager, etc. The one thing that nobody has an answer to is the Tuticorin customers, from what we are told, they want everyday sailing. A mother vessel cannot come every day. As much as we would love to have it, it cannot come every day. So today, we do not know. The myth has not been tested. You have got 5 feeders from Chennai from Tuticorin to Colombo. So should that change and a feeder come, will the, we just spoke some time back, somebody was talking about, I think Mr. Gopalakrishnan was talking about, cargo being ready and then stored in warehouses. We cannot keep the vessel there for, days on end waiting for the cargo to arrive. So is the trade ready? I mean, that is a question that I have not seen an answer to. So what next? So then what is it that we can do from the shipping line perspective? For us, what we can do is what kind of automation or what kind of digitization that we are able to bring to the table. For example, today, all your bookings are e-bookings. Today, all your bills of lading are e-bills of lading, depending on what line that you operate. There are also paperless bills of lading option available, so you don't need to, send a runner boy. You don't need to, have any kind of, time delays for your documents to be with you. The same thing for the imports also. I think most today have embraced ODEX, so you don't need to send an email for your, CFS nomination. That can be done over ODEX. Nobody is going to say, you know what, I did not get your email. Not possible anymore. So the lines have taken initiative where we can look at automation and digitization, and which in terms, for you brings you effort reduction. Now, how you quantify effort reduction, I think that will depend from organization to organization, but that is what the lines have done. And the other thing that the line always tries to do is Tuticorin is an imbalanced trade. Your 40 high cubes, we need to position them in. The lines also then see how is it that the cashews, which normally come from Africa in 20s, can they made into, can we convert them to 40s? And I think today most of the lines have been successful in doing that. Today, I think about 60 to 70% of the cashew import, which traditionally came in 20s, are coming in 40 high cubes, which means, then, we don't need to charge any positioning cost or factor for any other cost, and the entire benefit of that goes to the trade at large. So I think these are the initiatives from my perspective that the lines are doing. Of course, we can never say that, we have done what we have to do. There is always a tomorrow, and we will constantly endeavor to see what more can we do along with the trade to make it even better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for ending it on a very positive note. What has to be done, we will do. That sounds very optimistic. But let me put a perspective before you. PIL used to be a regional player on you can say, a point-to-point connection between East Africa, West Africa, touching the Indian subcontinent, and Tuticorin used to be the first port of call. We used to get shiploads of cashews, then it's followed by containers transshipped with the timber and other materials. Going forward, see, always the rate is based on demand supply. Today, the imports which are coming into maybe cashew or timber may be dominated by 1 or 2 major lines. How do you look at this market? Because more lines participating in this sector means the importer or the exporter has a choice on the freight, and that keeps the freight rates under control. So, do you have any plan to look at this sector to improve further?
Definitely yes. How do I put this one? See, typically all your cashews, that PIL has been the leader as far as the cashews are concerned. Today, more and more lines are interested in Africa, which was not the case earlier. Earlier, you had very, very few lines operating from Africa. PIL was one among them, apart from CMA, Maersk, etc. And it is seasonal. So when the moment it is seasonal, then how do you run a service that is going to cater to a seasonal volume? That becomes a bit of a challenge. And for us in PIL today, we are not part of the Europe trades. We are not part of the North America trades. And typically, for us, if we have to connect Tuti, and for that matter, Cochin as well, is over Colombo. But we do not have services which are plying in these areas. What we are trying to do is today, you know that PIL is owned, I think 70% by the Temasek Group, which is, Government of Singapore sovereign fund. So we are looking at opportunities on where we can improve, our foray into the, Indian subcon, Tuticorin included. So these are things that we are working on. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you right now. But for sure, Tuti is a very, very important market for us, and we can only grow from where we are right now.
Thank you, sir. And I think my friends here will agree with me. I don't think we are not very specifically having a stigma that every day a mother vessel should call. I don't think that is the perspective of the exporter. Because mother vessels, they have their own schedule, they have their own way of coming. So I don't think that is a big impediment which I could like to highlight you. And the other co-panelists can also throw light on that. So one more area I could see, the theme of our discussion that should make meaning for us, for everyone present here, is that how do we make our port an efficient port? How do we do it? One of the biggest challenges is the trade imbalance. So how do we address that? I think we still have some scope by looking at agri products which are going out of Tuticorin, like maize, which goes on ship. So something like that can also be looked at. But I could like to honestly put forth a question. How do the lines or the carriers like you go depth into a market study looking at the perspective of ports like Tuticorin? I think there is some lacking on that, which I would like to put before you.
Okay. So before I answer that one, let me go back to the one that you said before. I'm not saying that it's just a figure of speech when I said can't come every day. What I was meaning to say is we are still not sure whether Tuticorin wants that everyday sailing, which is what I am told Tuticorin wants, or whether they would be willing to wait for 7 days. That is something which has not yet been tested. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you need to have one mother vessel every day. Coming back to, I'll tell you one thing. The past 10 years, the amount of automation, the amount of digitization, the amount of marketing efforts that the lines have done is huge. I saw Selvam also here some time back from Ritas. Everybody knows him by name. The reason why we know him by name, we know him from his Muridhar times, is because of the data that he is able to give to us on what are the flows, what are the equipment, what are the commodities, etc. And I'll be very honest, most lines, today, everybody is a PhD as far as studies are concerned. So we do studies, and we do studies, and we do studies. Some materialize, some do not materialize. But for us, it is very simple. Let's assume that if I'm going to make a study for the North America cargo out of Tuticorin. So what am I going to do? I'm going to see, okay, fine, what is it that Tuticorin has to offer? Then I will also put in a number of what can Bangalore get more, that is currently going to Chennai, or something else that is going to go to Cochin. We factor for all those volumes, and then we see what is our appetite. And typically, if there is 100 on offer, you will never make a study basis of 80 or 90. You will make a study basis of, if your current market share is, let's say, 12%. So at best, how much can you grow? So you will make a study basis 20%. Because you don't want to destabilize the market also, otherwise everything will go haywire. So typically, as I said, everybody, all of us are PhDs in studies. Again, we do not have a doctorate. Most of the studies that we have done have never materialized into actually putting it on the waters. But we constantly do that. And these are the numbers that we look at, where we are able to see what is our appetite and how we don't destabilize the market, because lines don't trust each other. The moment somebody starts something new, and then before you know it, the rates start falling.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your response. And since you are the only panelist with the leave alone unifeeder from the liner background, I could also like to ask you one more question before we pass it on to the next person.
Sure.
We are talking about keeping our cost under control, optimizing cost and time. how do you feel as a liner, as a carrier? Now carriers are projecting themselves as an integrated logistics service provider from the farm to the warehouse or to the supplier. So does PIL do such forward backward integration, or is that from your perspective will be favorable for the trade in terms of savings in cost? Few lines have did it, Maersk has did, CMA has did. How do you perceive that? Is that in a scheme of things?
See, I mean, I'm reminded of Kamal Hassan's dialogue, kelvi kekkiradu romba easy, badal kodkardu kashtam. How do I say that? There are already lines which have made it their vision of working in that direction. PIL also has a PIL logistics division. We do a lot of end-to-end in Africa. We do a lot of end-to-end in China. We also do a lot of barge end-to-end in China today. So is it something that we would want to do here in India? Definitely yes. But it is not the only one thing that we would want to do. It's a bouquet of service that you offer to a customer. There is no point in competing, with a forwarder who's already supporting you. You're only shooting yourself on the foot by doing that. So this definitely is one of our agendas. I will not deny that. At the same time, is it our only agenda? I don't think that can be possible in a country like India, where we have got a huge amount of customer needs, different kinds of needs, and not everything can be solved by one service provider. That's what my take is on this.
Thank you for your response, sir. And we move on from there to our next speaker, Dr. R. Rajesh Kumar, Director, Glow Shipping and Logistics Private Limited from Coimbatore. Yeah.
I can. Good evening to one and all, and thanks to C-Trade for this wonderful opportunity. And I'm basically from a custom broker background, and when looking at optimization of cost and time, we could see a lot of changes happening in customs as such with CBIC and online, which we are doing in RMS. We could see a lot of changes. In fact, we have come a long way, wherein we've been waiting for weeks or days together to make a file and shipping bill and go to customs and do all that has been slowly, it's all gone. But in fact, we have to do still more, and as FFAI, as a association is trying to do much more for the betterment of the trade and faster clearance to happen. And I think it will take little more time for doing this clearance on a very, very niche and faster manner. And only thing what I could feel is that, we all should have a little more of sense of responsibility, as a lot of people are not taking that responsibility as their own. That is one thing which we are lacking. And in fact, this chalte hai is one thing which we need to really, zero it down. Because recently when I was in a place, somebody said Sam. I asked, what is this Sam? He says, Salpa, just muddy. So this Sam, this chalte is one thing which I think we should take it out and make sure that we have a sense of responsibility and be more cautious, be more accurate in doing things. With regard to the cost, what I could see is from the ports, in the international corridors of many countries, we could see a container coming as imports getting into a place and going back with a loaded container, which many of the online digital companies are trying to do it, but in India we have not been successful yet, because there are a lot of thousands of containers coming out from Tuticorin as imports, getting into Tirupur, Erode, Karur areas and going back as empty. So when I recently went abroad, I was just seeing some companies and I was just reading, I was just trying to look at how they are doing it. We could feel that there are some companies who gives, like for example, an association of a port with steamer agents or custom brokers or whoever it is, they make an association, and that association helps doing this this route actually. For example, from Tirupur, there is a market like Erode or Salem or Tirupur or Coimbatore. What they're doing is they are allowing a mobile cleaning vehicle which goes to the nearest place. It runs around, they give 2 mobile vehicles. It runs to the nearest place, maybe 20, 30 kilometers nearby. It cleans it, or they appoint a surveyor. They appoint a surveyor, he sees that, okay, this container is good for handling. It comes to the nearby stuffing point and goes back, wherein we easily save at least around $200, $250 on it, wherein this box empty goes all the way to the port and comes back. So this manner, if we can, even a steamer agents association or a custom broker association, take this as a as a vertical, and maybe they can charge every container maybe 50, 100 rupees more, and every port has got 2,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 containers going. 100 rupees or 50 rupees a container for this charge, and some association can take this ownership and do this. There will be a huge cost saving for all the importers and exporters. This is one thing. And the next thing is like infrastructure. Definitely we are on the right path, and I'm sure we should reach the target very soon, but there'll be a lot of hurdles which we are all facing, but definitely those hurdles will be definitely, we are almost catching up. When compared to the older times, we are definitely catching up. And regarding to Conclave, ma'am, we have a huge place in Coimbatore which is really unutilized, and we need to really find out, like, we are just fighting with the chicken or the egg. This has been happening for the last maybe over a decade or more than a decade. It's a small issue how we can sit, solve, and maybe Conclave, like big companies, can definitely invest on some trailers and cut the cost and take it further, because there are a lot of things which can happen, because Coimbatore as a nearby place has got so much of capacity, and a commodity like coir, everybody, literally the shippers usually says that, no, when it goes by lorry all the way to the port, the moisture contents takes up and the weight of the cargo really comes down. So they'll all be happy if we can do some modality of maybe arranging, like, than Conclave giving a subcontract to another company for a trailer or a forklift and other things, which really cost goes up. And I'm sure as Conclave, as a government body, as a corporate, they'll be able to invest something and take it up, and I'm sure the trade will be benefited. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. So when you spoke, you told about the being responsible as a custom broker or as a service provider. There is an element of the responsibility brings with that a quality in the work we do, and that can also bring down the cost, time, everything. I'm just asking you a question. Is it not necessary that skilling is a very important area, and is there not a gap which we see now as a custom broker, as a service provider, and which that gap is expected to widen further? What is your views on that?
You are 200% right, because now basically what happens is, like, nobody wants to come into shipping. Everybody feels like, the skilling is one place where all the industry lacks, and definitely shipping is one place is lacking very badly. And I think Skill Development Council is trying to do their best, and even they have regular meetings happening in all over the places. And even in Coimbatore, we had a lot of meetings, and there are a lot of programs, in fact, come into colleges, and every district, there are 2 or 3 colleges have been given for logistics, and Skill Development Council is taking care of the syllabus. They are trying to inculcate what logistics is in the students, and after 6 months, after they join us BCom Logistics, in the 6th month, after 6 months, these students have been brought into real-time training to all the logistic companies, and they are being given 6 months training in a CHA, 6 months training in supply chain, 6 months in shipping, in an exporter background. And after they finish the 3-year course, they come up with colors actually. They know what it is. Then when we were all in our age, we come with only a certificate, we don't know anything about what we are doing. But now, in fact, government is trying to take a lot of initiative, but still a long way to go. And I think as we people, I think we also should make people study, our colleagues study what it is, and give them the awareness, and tell them how important we are and what important field what we are doing for the nation. And I think the little study can do things better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your views. I would like to put one more question also before you. As a custom broker, we are basically servicing the exporters and importers. In one of the CII meeting, a leading importer, he was telling before the government authorities that how are you going to help us in cutting down our demurrage cost because of issues with customs, because of issues with storage. Now this fine line of custom clearance compatible with the customs activity, I think that is something which has to be discussed. How as a shipping community, as a custom broker community, how are we going to do that? Because importers and exporters are voicing this concern at various forums. So how do you look at that aspect?
Well, this is a very serious point because as per the shipper, as per our customers, they have so many hurdles and then ultimately they come to us. And when they come to us, we try to do our best, but the officers sitting on the other side create so much of issues wherein we are also trying through CBIC, through our association, to stipulate some timing, like, for an export it should be in 24 hours, or for an import it should be 36 hours. But again, what happens is, there are a lot of questions which the officer puts across online is, at times there is no meaning at all. So we are trying to, as an association, as a federation, we are trying to find out a ways and means with CBIC so that things can go smoother and they don't unnecessarily put people into trouble. Whereas as we had a problem last year because of the duty, so many crores of money has gone from all over. And ultimately, we also as a custom broker gets such a bad name saying that you are not capable. So these are a very, very thin line as what you said. And I think these are all to be really deliberated and we need to really come to a conclusion. And I'm sure our federation is taking the best of the steps possible, and we have around 30 associations all India basis, and everybody is putting the feedback to federation, and federation is taking up with the ministry as well as CBIC. I'm sure something will come up with colors very soon.
Thank you. So I could like to highlight to everyone here, and I think Mr. Jayant Thomas and Mr. David Raja will agree with me. Our traffic manager is here, our chairman in charge is available here. Recently, in VOC Port, Tuticorin, we had a meeting where across all sections, it is railways, it is transport, is it road network, there was a clear discussion on how to improve, what are the bottlenecks. I think Coimbatore, from your association, somebody should come on board for such discussions and Port should take that lead in informing the trade. We should compliment VOC Port for that. That meeting was really interactive and wonderful. So in that perspective, we can discuss all these issues and drive down the cost. That is the most important thing. And one more thing, since the chairman in charge is also here, see, the port today is positioning themselves to be the forerunner because there is a mandate from the government. We are looking at a long-term perspective. Exports should grow, the economy should grow. So I am sure their watchful ears have heard what you have told, and together we can do it. Thank you. Thank you for your.
It's a great initiative that give us little time, and next meeting we are all definitely there. So we can also put forward our suggestions, our ideas, and let's, as a group, let's work together for the better.
It was on Zoom. You can always come there.
Great.
That helps us.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
I think we can move on to our next speaker, Mr. Sendil Kumar Subramanian, CEO Dakshin Bharat Container Terminal. Over to you, sir. Floor is yours.
Good evening to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank C-Trade and FIO for organizing this fantastic event. And the first time in Madurai, I believe. And it should be quite useful for everyone. So today in my presentation or maybe the discussion, I would like to say only three things. One is operating a terminal based out of Tuticorin. And the title says how to save cost and time. So on that perspective, as a terminal, in what way we are so far contributed to the trade. So that is very important. That I would like to highlight first. And then secondly, I will move on to the global perspective and vis-a-vis where Tuticorin stands as of today. And then lastly, the kind of gaps still prevailing, which is of course beyond our control. So let me talk about first the kind of facility available in Tuticorin. I will just quickly go through. Tuticorin, we have a capacity of 600,000 TEUs. Ourselves and there is another terminal, PSA, they have 400,000. There is a 1 million TEU capacity available. And 800,000 TEUs so far handled. That's the maximum volume handled. So that means 80% of capacity has been utilized already. And if we talk about the breakup, 80% is EXIM and 20% coastal. So this is the base of Tuticorin cargo volume happening today. And then in terms of connectivity, as a terminal we are offering 6 sailings to Colombo. That means almost everyday sailings to Colombo. And in addition to that, we have a mainline call which is connecting directly Chinese ports via Port Kilang. So that's calling on every Sunday. And then the other terminal operator also provide excellent coastal connectivity to Mundra, Navasheva, Chennai, and Cochin. So all these things are the connectivity point of view for which is already existing in Tuticorin. And then comes next the kind of efficiency. See how you can save cost. So as a terminal operator, we have already exceeded our capacity in terms of handling 600,000 TEUs. We have done 6.4 lakh TEUs about 3 years before. So how it happened? Because the kind of efficiency already prevailed inside the system. That means inside our operational efficiency, and then the outside part. First, let me talk about our inside efficiency. Our vessel turnaround time is 18 hours average, with the exchange of say around 1,500 moves. So which is, you can compare with any other ports, we are the best. 30 moves per crane with a berth productivity of 75 moves. So, and then if you take about truck turnaround time. So these are the two important areas where our service quite a lot matters for saving cost. For a vessel, the less the port stay, the more savings on the port berth hire, and that cost can be passed on to the customer. Secondly, on the land side, the trucks are coming in and going. We are delivering, the service level stood at 20 minutes per truck. So that means the more, we are 80% of the trucks are served within 20 minutes. So there is a cost of saving in fuel, your driver cost, and then being supported by 17 CFS, the truck has to be fastly come back so that, for example, they can make 10 trips a day. So that means firstly, our house is already in order. So we are doing our job. So we are already making, whoever using our facility, they are enjoying the cost benefit and the time benefit. Okay, now on the other second comparison, where we stand in terms of comparing with the South Indian ports. You can refer the, it is already in the websites. You can refer that NLDS website, wherein you can see there are a few criterias. The best dwell timer. If you take Tuticorin, for import, our dwell time is only 23 hours. You can refer even June data, it is 23 hours. Whereas for exports, it is 48 hours in terms of dwell time. So that means again, it gives a signal that you are sending your box and the port stay is very less, so there is no need for you to pay extra ground rent. And whatever, in associated with your truck movement, our service is giving you a lot of, again, benefit. And then another important criteria, NLDS, what they have studied is congestion. So they have analyzed the congestion prevailing in all the Indian ports, and you can go to that website again today. If you look at Tuticorin, you can see only two colors. It is orange color, means it is almost zero congestion. And then even some places, there is a light blue, that means there is a low congestion area. And of course, there is only one area they show as a, which is deep blue, says there is small congestion. But then if you take other ports, it will be full of, it is not again complaining, it is again I am promoting Tuticorin because I am representing Tuticorin, and I love to talk about Tuticorin only. So I have got opportunity to share all these things. So I'm not lying. So you can see the website, and then you yourself can notice. So it is already your time is saved, no congestion. Then another important thing, your sorry. There is one more important point. They say for moving the container, evacuation efficiency analysis they have done among the, again, Indian ports. Again, if you look at Tuticorin, it talks about what is the speed of the truck when it came out from the CFS and reaching the port. What kind of speed it is driving. You can see only Tuticorin driven trucks from the CFS, they are traveling in 20 kilometer speed. But then rest of that port, you can see it is 4 kilometers per hour. Even some ports, I don't want to name it, 0.6 kilometer. But Tuticorin is far ahead, and we are number one, 20 kilometers. So this is again cost saving. You can save your fuel, your driver's salary, and your turnaround time between CFS and port. You can do wonders. And then now let me move on to the global perspective. Now everybody talk about why mainliners are not coming to Tuticorin, what is the problem. But now Mr. Parthasari also clearly mentioned, and Mr. KK also, see, we cannot change the entire geographical thing overnight. So whether we are moving nail space or whatever, that I leave it to the government and their policies. But we'll have to survive, and we'll have to manage effectively whatever the resources available with us. So we cannot simply blaming everyone and then keep quiet. So I can try to say something about, again, Tuticorin. We have daily sailings to Colombo. For Madurai, for example, you can reach by truck 4 hours. Your port stay, we can even accept containers last minute. So everyday sailing means your container will reach Colombo within 24 hours. So whatever the mainland connectivity, the so-called mainland connectivity you are talking about, your box will be there in the waiting for the mainline to come in 24 hours. So that is the kind of efficiency already in place. And this is again confirmed. I can quote one more example. Liners Connectivity Shipping Index. Again, it is there in the papers. You can go and see. China is far ahead. They are with 169 points. And next come India is far behind. We are at 659 points. Whereas if you say Colombo, 71%. I'm not, by saying these numbers, that means it talks about the mainland vessels availability. So as I said, China is 169 points. We are at 57. Colombo is 71. So today, since I don't have any answer for a mainland, I can still say confidently that Colombo being 71, which is again 12 points more than India, the mainlines are much better. Connection is already available in Colombo. So that means plus 24 hours, as I said, your box can still be connected via Colombo. So that is an important point I would like to say. And lastly, I would like to conclude my speech. Again, the kind of gaps prevailing in this region. Firstly, West Coast and East Coast. There is a huge difference. West Coast are very, very prominent ports, whereas in the East Coast it is only Chennai. And if you take the cargo comparison again, 50%, 60% cargo, Indian cargo, not even 60. I would say 70 comes from West Coast and 30% coming from East Coast. But they are talking about Western corridor, they are talking about Eastern corridor. But where is South India's corridor? Nothing. And they are talking about Madurai to Tuticorin corridor, and that has been now recently, we read one article that has been withdrawn due to some, the financial, this thing is not there. So they have been withdrawn. Now we are talking about, again, Concor rates are always telescopic. So as Mr. Parthasarathi rightly said, the lesser, the shorter the distance, it is impossible for the customer to force them to go and do via rail, which is highly not possible. So all these things has to be studied. And then mainland call again for 2 to green, yes, we are already working on it. Today we have one mainline vessel, and there is upcoming facility is going to come in another 2 years' time. So finally, 2 to green is going to become 1.6 million TEUs, and the channel is being widened up. So that will be ready before December. So then 340-meter vessel can be accommodated. That will come along with the patchwork of making even draft of 14.2. Again, there is a huge potential for Tuticorin to become a mainland port maybe in another 2 years' time. Then again, the port, luckily I have been given chance to speak before TM. So, sorry sir. So I'll have to, then another thing is the outer harbor development. So that is also they are rolling it out. So don't underestimate Tuticorin. And being Madurai, sitting in Madurai, our only, this thing is, I have given all the numbers, you evaluate, you decide, but we want 100% of all your cargo to be come via Tuticorin because you are our close proximity. And finally, I conclude one more thing. If you analyze US, UK, Europe ports, industries are not there. So we'll have to treat Madurai as our captive hinterland. For example, UK ports, their GVA is coming from 57% from the port-related industries, the cargo. And 60% of the job is also originating within the port boundaries. And then the revenue is 67%. This is the one study also says. So that means we have been completely left out on the industry's development. So Madurai is our next door. So you please treat Tuticorin as your gateway, and then please do support us. So with that note, let me conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sendil, for your pragmatic and practical presentation with the facts. Because if you remember when our shipping secretary visited us at Tuticorin, so when I had a chance to meet him, the NLDS report was the only thing I could say. Sir, please look at that report that says our export dwell time and our imports clearance from the port, we are far better. I hope the EXIM community will take this and will patronize Tuticorin. Thank you, Mr. Sendil. I am sparing you. I am not going to ask any question. We move on to our next speaker. And I could like to set the stage with Mr. Jayant Thomas. Over to you, sir.
When this topic of optimizing cost and time was given, the first thing that came to my mind was a very funny and interesting case study during my college days. In the 1960s, when there was a competition between US and Russia in space sector, they faced one practical challenge. After going to the space, when they want to take notes with their pen and paper, because of zero gravity, the pens didn't work. So the US invested more than millions of dollars, and then they came out with a zero gravity pen, and they were very proud of their success. But their Russian counterparts used something very practical and simple. They used a pencil, and it was a very, very practical solution for this, saved some millions of dollars for them. So when it comes to the topic of optimizing cost, there are two ways. One, we are all experiencing reverse auctions, RFQs on a monthly basis, and after that is finalized, then there is a squeezing of further negotiation and squeezing of rates, etc., and getting quotations for every shipments, etc. That is one way of looking at things. But there are other ways in which there are practical, simple, common sense tips where we can save enormous amount of cost for an exporter and importer. For example, a 20-foot container, if the freight is about $2,000, if an exporter is careful enough to plan their carton size and ensure that there is very minimal space left in the container, and even if they save 1 CBM unused space, which with the best way of using that, they save about $70. And if it is, they say 1.5 CBM saving results in $100 per 20 foot. That's the amount of savings an exporter can do when they do a little bit of practical thinking. I am so fond of Tuticorin because so many practical, down-to-earth solutions come from Tuticorin. Normally we hear about exports of perishable commodities like onions, potatoes, etc. going in reefer containers. That's what happens across the globe. But in Tuticorin, every month there is about 700 to 1,000 containers being exported, not in reefer container, but in normal container in a one-door condition. I think we should salute the person who found that. Because for every container, there is a saving of about $500. And the availability of reefer containers is, if you take the global fleet, the ratio between a dry and a reefer container is almost like 1:100. So that is the way in which a common solution can bring efficiency into the supply chain. Another thing, our good friend Mr. Rajesh was mentioning about the demurrage issue, about the importers saying that because of no mistake of mine, we are spending thousands of dollars on demurrage, and the shipping lines is charging $80, $120. Of course, the shipping lines have already published their demurrage tariff in their websites, and it is not something which is something happening after that. It is well defined, and it's their model because the shipping lines want the container back into their system so that they can earn more freight. But I think in 2016 itself, Customs Board came up with a very specific circular in which when an import container which is not cleared can be moved from an exempt container into a domestic container, and the charges for a domestic container per day is only about $8. An importer saves about $70 per day, and if it is 10 days, it is $700. We have a huge audience here. I guess there are about 20, 30 importers here. How much amount are you spending in detention in a yearly basis? Look at your financials and see. There are ways in which we can improve the efficiency. And I really like the way India Sea Trade runs the conclaves. The focus is always in the coastal shipping. There is proven studies that if the first mile connectivity and then from a port to another port and the last mile connectivity is about 200 kilometers, there is a definite saving of 30% freight when it compared with the road transport. That's not something small amount. It's like $500 saving in one container, in a 40-foot container. And the sad thing is the trade in the north has fully utilized that, and I think between Cochin and Tuticorin, Muralidharan sir will be able to say very specifically, maybe the volumes is about 20,000 TEUs per month. But when the freight is fragments, when we compared from a door-to-door perspective from north to south is about 1,20,000 or 1,30,000. The freight from south to north is only about 35,000 rupees, and there are no takers. The ships are loaded with full of empty containers, and there is cargo moving from south to Gujarat side in the truck. So there are so many ways if we collaborate and think about and study the policies which the government is coming up with to reduce the logistics cost. I think it gives enormous way in to reduce the optimizing the cost, and not only the cost but also the time. With these few words, I think I leave it to the moderator to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for all your practical tips. As we have been seeing that I am myself is a empty depot operator. And when we send out containers for the exports, how the trade works, how we are conversant in cleaning that container, ensuring that it goes to the exporter's premises and it gets stuffed. So in Tuticorin, that work culture is always there. We have to only capitalize on that. We'll move on to our next speaker. And I could like to call Mr. David Rajat. Mr. David, 1 minute. You had a clarification to be made.
Yeah, I had just one clarification. Listening to all these discussions and quotes and unquotes. Uh, this is with regard to a direct call in Tuticorin. The one thing that COVID has taught me is that I don't know anything. I have seen MTs getting picked up from Calcutta, getting loaded from Chennai. I've seen reefers getting picked up from Calcutta, Vizag, then loaded over Chennai. I've seen 40 high queues being positioned inside Kolkata, which has never happened. So can a direct call in Tuticorin happen? Definitely it's a possibility. So I thought I'd just clarify that one thing. Don't make me a villain.
Thank you, sir. Over to Mr. David Raja.
Good evening. Thank you very much, India Sea Trade. Especially, you are brought our Tuticorin to Madurai. Thank you very much, and this is definitely, as a trade from Tuticorin, we are thankful to the India Sea Trade for this conclave. And thank you very much for this opportunity. I just want to start with the IMF report, wherein the 22-23, the global economy has increased by 2.8%, wherein the same IMF projected a forecast 23-24 only 3%. That means globally the economy is slowing down. It's a clear message. Let us not go deep into that. There are so many criteria like geopolitical crisis, change of powerhouses, change of the powers, the BRICS countries increasing their members, the powers are shifted from USA to Europe. There are so many things are happening. So the global economy is slowing down and unpredictable. But on the other hand, like our ex-shipping secretary clearly pointed out, let us not go into the services incremental. The mercantile exports of 22-23 is 6.03%. The favorable union budget has given a great hope for the Indian trade, and it is projected at 24 for 7% growth. So there is a growth projected under these circumstances. Like our moderator clearly said, the past Niti Aayog chairman, Mr. Amitabh Kant, clearly mentioned that if you want to achieve $5 trillion economy of India, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu should play a vital role to achieve this. And Tamil Nadu alone has fixed a target of 1 trillion economy. Under this background, I am very clear that the title, the subject, the connectivity to the ports, connectivity to the gateway ports, the time and cost is the very relevant and appropriate subject where we can discuss today. So under this, our panelists have clearly explained the macro analysis of what needs to be done, what action to be done. Mr. Sendil said terminal. Mr. Kumar said Coimbatore CHA issues. Everyone talked about the macro level things. Let me, in my 2.5 decades of experience, I did my micro-analysis to achieve the time and cost of moving the containers to the gateway ports. So what I did is, I would like to just present 11 points. It may be relevant or may be irrelevant because I could see the entire congregation here, or mixed of logistics, operators, and exporters, and also the association members, as well as dignitaries. Thank you, Commissioner, for sparing the time to attend this very good conclave. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman, for spending your time to attend here, because we are proud of you, because as a Tuticorin, you are showing so much interest. So in my 11 points, let me first say, the first point is how to reduce the time and cost. The first point is planning and coordination. I think everybody knows the planning and the coordination is the most important, maybe the spinal cord for the containers movement from to the gateway ports. The second point, the container preparations. Before we start, we should have the container should be prepared, because in my experience, the containers, even one time if it is sent back, it's a cost. Whether a CHA borne the cost or a CFS borne the cost, doesn't mind, but there is a cost. So container preparation is very much needed. The third one is the transportation. So the transportation is also very important. How efficiently you are moving the transportation. The more important thing is how efficiently you are managing your transport, enable there is no breakdown. The fourth point, let me say that, let me fix that the key features of a multi-modal logistics park. Because I have been addressing many forums where I would always say, let the customs say it's a CFS, it's a ICD, but let we as a trade, let us design ourselves as a multi-modal logistics park, so that all the activities we are prepared to handle, to send our containers to the gateway port without any trouble, with optimum space utilization. The optimum space utilization is the best way to reduce the cost to the exporters, and also the best way that buyers can receive the optimum used containers, enable them for their distribution. Because there are 10 seasons in Europe and USA. Among the 10 seasons, how best the containers with the cargo is reaching the destination, reaching the buyer's place or reaching the buyer's stores is today decide how Indian merchandise exports is expected to grow. And the fifth point is documentation and compliance. When our documentation and compliance is perfect, there is a smooth flow of containers to the gateway ports. And the sixth point is how best we are having our security in place. Because today, the most important thing is the security. How efficiently you are managing your security, the more confidence to the buyers. So my point here is, we need this 2024 we need to achieve the 7% growth. And let us see, because the world is going slow, but India is going fast, and I never accept, let us not compare with China, because China is an artificial economy. We are the market-driven economy. So we will be successful. We will achieve the 7%. So let us move on. And my point here is we should achieve the 7% growth, sir. And the seventh point is communication. Yes, the communication is very important. The communication is growing, and I just want to share with you, the last month I have been called to the Mangalore port for a presentation, and I am mind-boggling. A company has presented an artificial intelligence in the logistics network, and it is shown a tremendous improvement wherein the complete transparency from origin to the destination. So there is so much communication development is happening. I am unable to believe that artificial intelligence also penetrated into the logistics, and it is showing a real going to be a result, wherein the complete transparency, complete 100% transparency to the buyers and to the shippers is expected. And the eighth point is the port operations. The efficiency of the port operations also plays a role in controlling or reducing the time and the cost. The ninth is the very important one, how we are prepared to have the emergency planning and how equipped we are for an emergency planning. And the 10th is we need to look at the environmental condition, and we need to decide whether we should go for a rail, road, or sea. So it's our responsibility to manage the control of the fossil fuel. And of course, the 11th one is let us all join together and continuously improve for this very vital element, the container movements to the gateway port, by reducing the transit and cost. Enable we as a trade will achieve India to grow at a merchandise exports of from 6.03 to 7% by end of 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. David, for your presentation. I think you have given us 11 commandments to follow. Thank you for that. As we are running short of time, we will move on to the next speaker, Mr. C.M. Muralidharan, India Area Director, Unifeeder. A lot of vibrancy is there with Unifeeder, and we hope to hear from you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, good evening. First of all, thank you, Sudhir, for organizing this function. You know, normally what happens, like I can see like all these kind of events are organized somewhere in Bombay, Cochin, or Kandla, or like the first time, as Sendil mentioned, I have seen in Madurai. Actually, all these industries are situated. And thank you for that, inviting me. Myself, Muralidharan, I am from Unifeeder Group. Unifeeder Group is a part of DP World, which is one of the largest terminal operator and supply chain solution provider across the world. Unifeeder is one of the largest feeder operator across the world, and we operate, we connect all these all over the countries, especially India. Like apart from our feedering service, our main core business is coastal. We are connecting all these 12 major ports with our 9 Indian flag ships now. Along with that, we carry a lot of transshipment cargo. So especially I would say like Tuticorin. Tuticorin, we are connecting Tuticorin port with Cochin and West Coast ports and East Coast ports. We operate coastal along with that, the feedering service into Gulf and Colombo. So these are the a lot of ships, cargo we carry like all these places which get transshipped at Jebel Ali or Colombo. And even the cargo which can move from here to Cochin and to the East Coast sector. That is the way we structured our services in India now. We mainly focus in the coastal service here, like, the main intention, like, as the government of India is also like looking at to reduce the logistic cost. And we believe like the main topic, like how to optimize the cost, we believe like the coastal shipping, like, is going to play a big role in this reduction in the logistic cost. And we provide a door-to-door service to all our customers, like we pick up the cargo and deliver, like, with cost-efficient manner, So this is the one of the things like which, and the second thing is like the government is looking at to improve the transshipment hub. Like, of course, there are one, as Sandil mentioned, one ship, mainland ship is calling. Otherwise, we are connecting all these transshipment cargoes from each port, like, for example, the Chennai or Mundra, Cochin. So these are the two areas we are concentrating. One is the coastal shipping, and second is the EXIM transshipment connectivity from all these ports. Like we are collecting the cargo and connecting into a mainline wherever the mainlines are operating. So this is the kind of service, and we continue like to operate that. We have a lot of with the coastal and the transshipment business in India, apart from the whatever the EXIM business, what we are doing from India.
Thank you, sir. I'll just have a question for you. Is there a connectivity from on the East Coast connecting Vizag, Calcutta to Tuticorin? Are you doing that service, or is there a plan to do such service, or how are you connecting those containers from Vizag or Kolkata?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we are operating in 9 ships. What we did, like these 9 ships, we have split into 3 services. One service is connecting Mundra, Cochin, Tuticorin back to Kandla, Mundra. The another service where you are operating like Mundra, Azira, Mangalore, Cochin, Tuticorin back to Mundra. The third service which you are operating from Kandla is start from Jebel Ali. It's coming from Jebel Ali to Kandla. Then it goes to Chennai, Vizag, Krishnapatnam, then Tuticorin, Cochin, then back to Jebel Ali. And as I mentioned, this vessel which we are operating is the larger ship. It's not who we call it's a feeder service, but today the feedering ships are like the capacity is our ships. Like, it's a more than 4,500 TEUs capacity, so as good as a mainline ship. So these ships cannot go to that eastern sector because there are a lot of restrictions, restrictions. So what we did, like, we have again deployed 2 smaller ships there, which is connecting Calcutta, Haldia, Paradeep cargo. We are bringing into either Krishnapatnam, Vizag or Chennai and connecting into these mainline ships or our picks too. Even into Tuticorin, we are bringing a lot of cargo, even the coastal cargo from Krishnapatnam, Haldia, Paradeep, Vizag into Tuticorin and to Cochin. So all these ports is what, like, we have structured a service like, within India, like all these ports we are connecting, interconnect with these 9 ships, which can use for coastal and EXIM transshipment.
Thank you. Thank you for detailing the entire this thing, connecting the East and West Coast. I think the exporters can take you out of this. We move on to our next speaker. One moment. Yeah, okay.
I have one question for you. See, this Bangladesh shipments, that is again, when I read the articles appearing in the newspapers, they say it is sort of a coastal movement because of there is some top-level agreement happen, and then through Kolkata ports, you can still do cargo movement to Bangladesh, sort of coastal rates. But fortunately or unfortunately, correct me if I am wrong, in any other ports in India today, if any volume has been given for Bangladesh, nobody else is willing to accept. The vessel operator, they say that Bangladesh, you cannot load and sail it directly to Bangladesh ports. Either you have to transship at Colombo or Singapore. That route only can reach Bangladesh. There is no direct this thing for Bangladesh. Is it correct or?
Yeah, I'll explain to you like in a short time. This Bangladesh, in fact, our group, we only started discussing with government of India. Like there was two proposals from our side. Like one is for the coastal and one is for direct export into Calcutta. The coastal shipping, like I'm talking about 7-8 years ago, like there was a hell of a lot of connectivity issue into the northern part of India. So what we have suggested, like we can move the cargo via Chittagong into that Tripura and all those eastern ports. So there was a lot of discussion, lot of meetings. Finally, the government has approved that treaty. You can move the cargo via coastal. Then, because of some reason, it was pending, like because there were a lot of SOPs, like, discussion between the two countries. But finally, I think it's almost closed now recently. The second thing now, if you ask our issue, like as our group, like the Bangladesh government doesn't allow to operate an Indian flag vessel straight away from here to there. They are insisting to use the Bangladeshi flag vessel, which we don't have. So there was one or two services from Calcutta to Bangladesh, which is a Bangladesh vessel, small ship. So that restriction is still there. I don't know the last treaty whether it is cleared. Otherwise, that was a challenge. Like we have to have Bangladeshi vessel. Otherwise, we can operate. Now this cargo, Chittagong cargo, we are moving by Colombo. Like all this port we are collecting, we are moving to Colombo, and we have a direct service into Chittagong. If you move directly into there, there will be a lot of berthing delays because they always give a preference for the Bangladeshi flag vessel.
Taking advantage of this forum, I think this case to be referred at the top level.
Even from our side, we recently submitted a letter also to Bangladesh government, like with this finalizing a treaty. Now the second request is like allow the Indian flag vessel to call that. That representation even from our side. Now, as you rightly said, this forum can be used for that. Yeah.
There is a good potential for Bangladesh cargo.
Since the port authorities are there, I think take note of it.
Whether this issue has been flagged at the Indian government level or it has only been addressed to the Bangladeshi government level?
No, the Bangladeshi government said that they are only allowing the Bangladeshi ships to operate between this port.
But being an Indian flag operator, he may not have a chance to operate, or he may be discriminated when he calls Chittagong or other ports. Whether this has been flagged in the Indian government level?
No,
by the trade?
Yeah, that is the reason we have submitted both the sides the letter to clear this, like to Bangladeshi government and the Indian government, like this challenge what we are facing. So that is the reason, like nobody is operating. There was one operator was operating between Calcutta and Bangladesh and Chennai to Bangladesh. That is also, I think, stopped because of all these kind of delays. Darcel was operating Chennai to Bangladesh, but it's not successful. So I think they also discontinued. Not the regular service because of these delays. Yes.
I have one more question to you, sir. What about connecting Myanmar port with the South Tamil Nadu? Because a lot of pulses trade happens in the Virudunagar-Sivagasi belt. So is there any plan to connect Myanmar with this south the ports like Tuticorin?
No, so far we as a Unifeeder we have not worked out, but we have done a study that it was not that kind of the response was not very positive. So we have not finalized anything. That still that study is on, like exploring that possibility. Yeah, that is another area like as you rightly said, apart from Chittagong, that was the area like what we are exploring the possibilities to connect Myanmar. But so far nothing has been finalized.
Thank you for your inputs. So we move on to our next speaker. Our traffic manager, Shri R. Prabhakaran.
Good evening to all the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. So as such, having a lot of papers and a lot of data and being the last speaker is a very difficult task. And I thank all my co-panelists for having explained or brought about all the points which I should have also talked about. So, left with nothing, I have to improvise. There has been talks about connecting to the gateway port, how to optimize the cost, how to optimize the time and all. As far as VOC port is concerned, I representing VOC port have to tell, the port is geared, fully geared to optimize your time, to optimize your cost and make sure your shipping business through VOC port is the most friendly and the most profitable business. So if you say, our panelists have already told that congestion is one issue which impacts the time or the cost connecting to the gateway port. Connectivity is another issue, and documentations is another issue. Ease of doing business, Partha was telling about what is the level of ease of doing business in other ports and all. So I would like to tell that VOC port, we are doing wonders, and in many areas, in many sectors, we are leading. The port had a direct connectivity to the US Americas and the Europe way back in 90s. And the port was a transshipment port way back in 80s, 70s itself. The port was a fully computerized port in 2000s. Now today, VOC port is an 100% online port. David Raja was also talking about transparency. The port is a fully transparent port. VOC port prides itself on its ease of doing business initiatives, and all these translates as savings for you in your business. So your first mile, last mile connectivity or your entire logistics business is transparent, online and timely. Sendil has also highlighted about the positive aspects of our port. All this I should have also told, but I am fortunate that they have already precursed me. So port with international dwell time, international turnaround time and international evacuation time, and with 17 CFSs and a DPE facility within 5 kilometers range of the port. That is the main thing. It's within 5 kilometers range. Offers you excellent service potential. Now, when we come back to this, the first mile and the last mile connectivity. VOC Port has rolled out a wonderful scheme, a Sagarmala scheme, which is Coastal Employment Unit based. We call that as Tuticorin Speeds. So through this scheme, we are giving land for all your manufacturing or further value addition needs. So you could have your facilities within the port limits itself. So thus, your first and last mile connectivity, I think it is approximately 30% of your logistic cost. So you save 30% of your logistic cost. So Tuticorin port is a real, true gateway port with the least cost. Having said that, I will have to talk about the other, now that I am this last speaker, and the Tuticorin and VOC ports trade fraternity has already spoken all the positive things about doing business with Tuticorin, doing business with VOC port. Maybe I should, our Celestine has already asked all the questions you require to ask. Maybe I should now start answering those questions. See, we have a wonderful ecosystem here. Our online, 100% online, 100% customs, trade and port integrated ecosystem ensures that you connect to your mainline vessel within 24 hours at Colombo. And we have 6 daily sailings to Colombo. Daily sailings, 6 sailings a week, almost daily. But that doesn't mean we are not thirsty for mainline services. We are thirsty for mainline services, and our trade requires mainline services, and the lines also want to bring in their mainline services if the trade will support. But finally, again, it's again a chicken and egg story. So everybody says we need the cargo. Conclave wants the cargo, assured cargo, and a full rate capacity. Otherwise, they are unable to run a service. Then our lines, they want a very good fill factor, otherwise they are not ready to run a service. And always we say the trade has to come forward, they have to commit, they have to bring the boxes. And my only question is, why should the trade bring their boxes to you? The trade is offering you an option for you to do business. The trade says, I am willing to support you, I am willing to help you make money. You provide the logistics service and make your money. So, but the logistics service providers are all always asking the trade, you please commit your cargoes, you please commit your volumes. The volumes are there, it will go to the nearest port and the easiest port for the exporter and the importer. Let the services approach the trade and say, this is your best service. This is your most cost-effective service. And in this regard, on behalf of VOC Port, I would like to express that VOC Port is fully ready to support all such service initiatives. I would like to inform Conclave that we are willing to support Conclave to run an off-train, off-rake service or a milk run service, and we would support you with, we will subsidize or we will support you with the empty run cost. So if you run a service and you find that the return cargo is less, VOC Port will help you. We will subsidize that cost. And if you are running a liner service, if you are going to connect me to a port beyond Colombo, if any lines here would like to run a weekly service to Singapore, Port Klang, any service beyond, VOC Port will fully support that initiative. We will give you a very good concession. And if suppose the lines find that the business potential is less, and the VOC Port is ready to support you with an MOU-based concession scheme until you find the volumes. Once you find the volumes, you make good business, VOC Port will take a step back. Till such time, we will shoulder your responsibility also. So if you are connecting VOC Port to Americas, Europe, 100% of the VRC charges we will forgo. The vessel call is 100% free. You call us, but only thing is you have to call us regularly. If it's a tram call, sorry, we will charge you. You give a line, you give a service, even a fortnightly service, then we will support that service 100% free. We will not charge you even 1 rupee. See, let the trade be made to come to the port, let the trade be made to come to the service provider. The trade will always be there to support you. And for the information, I always think the egg is first. It's not the chicken. Even the chicken would have been a mutated egg from either a goose or a duck, if it was not the first chicken. So egg is always first. Let us understand that. Let us bring the cargo to our doorstep. Let us go to the cargo owner's doorstep and bring the cargo to our doorstep. VOC Port, with all whatever our co-panelists have already told, has already proved that we are the most cost-effective, the most time-effective port in the region. So we would like to support the trade in the most friendly manner. Ease of doing business is our #1 motto. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Since we are running short of time, I'm sorry we will not be able to take any questions. Thank you, one and all. The meeting is adjourned. We'll go on to the next session.
Thank you so much, dear panelists. But before you disperse, we would really like to give you a token of our appreciation and gratitude. So for that, I'd like to call on stage Mr. T. Johnson, Managing Director, Genid Logistics Private Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. T. Johnson on stage to hand over a token of our gratitude and appreciation to our panelists here. First, I'd like to call Mr. David Raja J. to kindly step forward and receive the memento. That's lovely to see you pulling him towards the center of the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Next, I'd like to request Dr. R. Rajesh Kumar to kindly step forward. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Parthasarathi Gopalan. Thank you for joining us, sir. I'd like to call Miss G. Gayatri on stage. Of course, she's already on stage. I meant center stage. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Jayant Thomas. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mr. C.M. Muralidharan. Thank you so much, Mr. C.M. Muralidharan, for your insights today. Mr. Senthil Kumar Subramaniam. Thank you so much, Mr. Senthil Kumar Subramaniam, for joining us. Mr. R. Prabhakar. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, our respected moderator of the session, Mr. J. Celestin Villavarayar. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and for doing the tough job of moderating, especially when we are running short of time. Thank you so much, sir. May I request you to kindly stay back with the panelists for a quick photograph, and then we can disperse. We will not have a break after this session because we are running drastically short of time. Some of our guests have flights to catch in an hour, so we'll not have an official break, but of course you can carry your cup of tea and coffee inside the hall while we proceed without a break. Yes? Ladies and gentlemen, loud round of applause for the panelists of our second session. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You may now join the gathering. Thank you so much.